Did you say you have one lens only? You're in the right place. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thomas Love here from beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and today we're gonna discuss the main techniques for street photography, which are fishing or hunting. What are the main differences that are peculiar of the two techniques, and when are you using one or another, and what does it mean, what are the implications to your shots? This is what we're talking about today. So the first technique, we call it technique, but it's really not. We're discussing it's hunting. What does it mean to be hunting for street photography? It means that you are walking down the street in the city that you chose or in the city where you live, and you're literally hunting for an interesting subject or scene that you want to portray. While fishing, it means that now you're not stressing that much the subject anymore, rather the surrounding. So you're focusing on the scene, on the framing, because you found an interesting spot, so something that is appealing to you due to the lighting condition, the contrast, the colors, whatever, and you're just waiting for someone to walk by so you can add the human factor into your shot. So when you are walking down the street and you are hunting for something interesting to take a shot of, you have two choices. So either you lightly follow, so you will be a bit of stalking the interesting subject that you found, and please don't do it for a long period because it's just weird, or you can go first and approach that person as the very first thing and ask for permission. Pros and cons of the two things. So if you are taking a candid picture of someone who is not expecting to be portrayed in your photo, of course his facial expression will be more candid, so more natural, and that might result most of the times in a better shot. On the other way around, if you go first and ask for permission, then of course that person will be expecting you to take a picture of them, and they might wear their face expression they normally use for photos, which is like a fake smile and the pose that they have in mind they have to wear for the shot. The real plus is that this way you can approach, you can go closer, so you can have a very close portrait of the person that you chose as your main subject. So every time you have to choose what your approach would be. Like in this case, I was walking down the stairs at the ice rink in Vancouver. From time to time I go there because when the season is ended and the ice melts, and then this huge space have a lot of reflections, and I found out that many people, young people, go there to practice their dancing, and it was the case today. So during a pose, I approached the guy and I asked if I could snap pictures of him, and that wouldn't bother me because, of course, because he said yes, but because I knew that that guy would have been dancing, so it was candid anyway, because he would have been very focused into the act of dancing and not on me taking pictures of him. And then I turned around just a little bit and I found that another photographer was taking pictures of the same guy. And here I realized that each photographer has his own approach because, of course, the personal way you shoot and also the gear that you're using. So I was having an angled point of view because I was interested by the guy dancing and of course also by the reflections on the floor, while the other guy was snapping pictures very frontal, from far away, eye level, and he was using a tele lens. So yes, two photographers shooting at the same subject, two different approach, two different cameras, two different lenses. But then I kept walking that day and I took many other photos in the city. I was downtown Vancouver, and another thing that I want to share with you is a very simple thought, that when you're walking downtown and you're hunting for street photography, everything that comes to you is richness. That is the beauty of the city you're witnessing, and you are freezing that moment and making it eternal for others to witness. So this is why street photography is so fascinating to me. And then on a totally different approach, we have the fishing. Fishing leads to a totally different kind of picture. So when you see high contrast pictures, when you see reflections, most of the time they are coming from a fishing technique. For fishing technique, you really need to study your environment. So if you see a framing that works for you and you are just waiting for people to come and be in a nice position, in an interesting position, then a few minutes may pass, then you need to practice your patience, of course, but the end result will pay off. Let's discuss now very quickly about the settings that we're using for hunting and for fishing. For hunting, most of the time you have the camera in your hand and you're ready to go. And if you don't want to miss the momentum, the camera needs to have the settings ready already. So you don't want to have 1/50th of a second as a shutter speed, because maybe the subject that you are portraying next will be too fast for 1/50th of a second, and you don't want to risk to have motion blur and miss the shot. So basically you're going around with your camera ready to shoot at 1/500th of a second or 1,000th of a second, and you're constantly checking and double checking your f aperture. That should be most of the times f8, but if you're not fast enough you can either boost a bit the ISO or go down to f5.6, but we will see the aperture priority mode in a later video, so be patient for that and check later on for that video to come, because I will explain literally with a lot of examples how to use the aperture priority mode to the best. But anyway, you're walking down the street, your camera is ready, you picked up already the ISO, and every time you change scene, because now you are in full sunshine, now you are in the shade of the buildings, you need to double check your camera and adjust the ISO and the f aperture to be sure that the shutter speed is that what you want. So with the hunting technique, most of the time you will be shooting suspended movement, you want to freeze the action, while with the fishing technique you can play it wisely, you can play it different. Like here, I was very fascinated by that wall that you see over there because it had a lot of color, and I didn't want to focus on people passing by. I mean, I needed a human factor to add something to it, but I didn't want that person to be the main subject of the picture. So I went a bit lower with my shutter speed and I focused on the wall, so that the girl that is passing by now would have been a bit of motion blur and it was not in full focus, so it was adding to the picture, but she was not the main subject of the picture. Was it right? Was it wrong? I don't know, I just liked it. So the most important thing is that when you're out shooting for street photography is to have fun. You are not going out there seeking for the best shot of your life. You want to have some pictures to be proud of, but basically you're out there having fun and practicing your skills. All the other details that you have to consider and are the 2000 zillion settings that you have in your camera. What focusing mode are you using? Is the metering mode the correct one? Are you using manual focus or autofocus? And if you're using autofocus, what autofocusing modes are you using? Feel free to go back and check in the other videos of my channel, because I'm talking about every single aspect of these ones that I just mentioned. And then here I was not expecting at all this situation, but in the end I spotted that it would have been a nice high contrast shot, so I took it. While downtown, the sunshine reflecting on the skyscrapers creates some nice patterns on the ground, and so every time that we have a street crossing, I tend to wait for the right moment, and then when people start crossing the street, I just jump in the middle and I crouch and I take a perspective shot of the people crossing the street, provided that the surroundings in that street are interesting. So in this case we had reflections of the light thanks to the skyscrapers. While here again I was at the Vancouver Public Library, and that's this new building which is a Deloitte building if I'm not mistaken, but apart from the architecture I saw a couple of human factor there in a perfect position, and they were very interesting to me rather than the architecture of the building behind them. And then here I'm still hunting. I just walked by this bookshop and the signage was interesting to me, and then of course we had some very interesting clients browsing the books and other interesting people passing by with their bikes. While here I was fishing again because I knew the Chinatown entrance was fascinating and I was waiting for some interesting subject to pass by, and with interesting subject, of course, I'm not referring to cars, but bikes. Because if you do it very often and you take practice with your camera, then you know it so well that you will start seeing the world in frames. So bear with me a minute, because I really want to stress another very important aspect of life and photography, of course. So what are we saying here? Colors do not exist outside of our minds. So with your camera, if you know it well enough and if you play with the settings well enough, you will be able to freeze the scene that you're witnessing with your eyes for a later stage. What are you doing with that at a later stage is not relevant. You want to print it out, you want to share it with people, you want to keep it there because you just loved it. But every time that you will be looking at that picture, you will be feeling the same sensations that you found interesting in the first instance. So the camera is just a tool that allows you to freeze those feelings, those sensations in a digital file. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you got any value, please like it, share it on your social media, feel free to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new hints that come from 25 years of experience shooting photos, and I guess I will see you later. Thank you, bye.